My wife cheated on me with a coworker and my children might not be mine. I feel like the biggest idiot in the world and I don't know what to do. February 2022, I uncovered that my wife was having an affair with a former coworker. This was just the tip of the iceberg that was about to sink my proverbial ship. Read, life. I want to document my story for two purposes. 1. To readily share when I choose to let family/friends in, when the feeling of shame won't let me form the words, and 2. To get some targeted help for anyone unlucky enough to be in my situation. I have rarely opened up, even to those closest to me, so please allow me to be vulnerable. Some background: my wife and I have been a college couple since 2010 and got married in 2017. We have lived across 5 different states in that time, and to preserve plausible deniability, I will not mention them by name. Home is our current home as well as where we were raised. Username gives it away. To make matters even more complicated, we have 2 young sons, both under 4. At D-Day, we both had full-time corporate careers which were demanding and my wife's job required a lot of regional travel. Additionally, she began investing a significant amount of time in her side hustle, which also required her to be out of the house most weekends. This was proving to be a very challenging point in our life, and it put a huge strain on our relationship as we were not living in our home state at the time and had 0 relatives/close friends in the state. It was becoming unsustainable for me to manage my increasingly demanding career, increasing parental responsibilities, and severe lack of sleep due to a newborn missing his absent mother. For the record, I was not fully ready to have a second child, but she inevitably persuaded me to do it sooner because, her body, her choice in age of pregnancy. It got to the point where we discussed 2 options to help our family thrive that ultimately did not align to my wife's desires. 1. Quit her full-time job and provide for our children full-time like she had wanted to do since college, or 2. Relocate our family back to our home state so we can leverage our vast support network of family and friends. She was adamant on keeping her current role because it afforded her the ability to travel and have the time and space to focus on other things, and she never considered moving home after my many requests over the years, so I was not surprised when she rejected the idea again. I could not understand where her priorities were, because it was clear that it wasn't anywhere near home. Ahead of some of her work trips leading up to February, we would find ourselves arguing over silly things. It seemed like she would look for fights over semantics or misplaced belongings, belittle me in front of our kids, and often ignoring me for long stretches of the day. We were both working remotely from our home, and there was a weird feeling every time she would leave the house for an upcoming trip. Almost an eagerness to escape, and a need to leave on the worst terms as possible. She would defy severe weather warnings to make it to these trips. Her wedding ring was forgotten at home many times. She missed our anniversary and dog's birthday for an important trip, with no call or text, and then I knew, it couldn't have been the work, there must be someone else. D-Day, on one of her earlier trips, she managed to lock herself out of her long-since-used smartwatch and left it with me so I could reset the watch. This was night 1 of 4 that she was set to be away, in the first of 2 locations. She wanted it to reset, but I thought I could avoid the hassle and try everyone's birthdays until I got it right. Late at night, after getting our boys to sleep, I managed to figure out the password and was able to successfully unlock the watch. And then the messages started coming in. Pictures. Instructions on how to get a room key. Plans to rendezvous for future trips. Talks of running out of time to even have lunch after. Grievances over the weather potentially canceling their second stop on their romantical hotel room tour disguised as work trips. I panicked and called her out immediately. In hindsight, I should have taken my time, but I knew I would be unable to hide my emotions for too long. She ended her trip early to come home the following morning. Her first reaction was to deny, and then after presented with my overwhelming proof, she reluctantly confirmed. She said it was a coworker that she had worked with years prior while we were living in separate states, and that they casually kept in touch over the years and started things after we moved to our new state. The 3 instances I uncovered was all of it, and that was all she was willing to divulge. I was crushed and couldn't reconcile some of the evidence that I had. Contact photos from a formal dinner that didn't fit into her alleged timeline. A lack of remorse from her after the discovery. I knew there had to be more. Over the next few days I would try to find more evidence on her phone and came away empty-handed, no surprise. I had so many questions unanswered and a WW that was unwilling to talk about it. But the one answer that I did know, was that I wanted our family to move back to our home state. Married, separated, divorced, whatever, I knew that the best thing for our boys was to be around family while navigating these next steps. To my surprise, she balked at my ultimatum, move back home for a chance at reconciling this, or stay here and certainly file for divorce. She was defiant, uncompromising, and completely unsupportive of the idea of moving home. I felt idiotic, offering an olive branch only to have it thrown back in my face. I didn't know how to get out of the situation I desperately wanted to avoid, and it felt like she was doubling down on staying near this new man. But then I got the confirmation that I needed to definitively answer when this all started. D-Day number 2, a week later, on the day before my oldest son's birthday, I got the type of news that no father wants to hear. Scientifically, there was a 0% chance that he was my offspring. I still don't know how to say the words that describe what it means, because he is obviously my son. But our DNA doesn't match. She reluctantly confirmed that it was the same man, and now confesses that the relationship started a mere 6 months after our wedding. This shattered me, and I hate to admit, but it changed my relationships with both of my sons. I went from feeling that I had 2 sons on this planet to knowing that while he is my son, I only have one true heir. I love him and wouldn't change him in any way, but I resent how this played out and how she hid this from me, as I was never given a choice. This is my main focus in therapy. I immediately stopped caring about the relationship implications of this new update. Obviously, it meant she lied, obviously it means there was more, and it is reasonably obvious to assume there is even more that hasn't been revealed. My immediate priority was to return back home, as I knew that we would need our family support system. We thankfully agreed to make the move, but logistically it meant I was stuck in many ways. The move wouldn't happen for a few months, and even after making the move home, I would need to wait. Immediately following the discovery, we separated in the same home, but inevitably, over the many weeks, things started getting back to normal. We did start to make time for these important conversations, and both started seeing therapists, but it never stuck once we finally moved home over summer. The plan was to move here, get through our individual busy summer seasons at work, and then focus on us. We did not share any of this with our family here, and for the most part are now living like it never happened. She is now instead focusing all of her time and energy in growing her side hustle. She is traveling for work again, longer trips now that she has to travel out of state, and staying out of the house longer so that she can book additional side jobs. She's gone on weekends, absent for our children's sports, anywhere but home. And what's worse, we don't need the extra money she is chasing. Where am I at now? I am sad, lonely, and totally paralyzed. I need no further evidence that she doesn't care about me. But I can't bring myself to do anything. Because I prioritized the move, I feel like I played too nice and allowed us to just move past this. The lost reality of the family that I once thought has been hard to cope with, but I just feel completely stuck. Why can't I do the obvious? Separate from her. I have been struggling with this new reality with my son. The very few folks I have discussed this with have all mentioned that it doesn't change anything, which is a very noble emotional. However, it feels like it has changed, which adds guilt into the equation. Lost are the happy thoughts of, he got that from me, and now I am left to question how much nurture I can squeeze in to displace as much of the nature. There are days that I wish I hadn't sent off the DNA test, but quickly remind myself that I needed to know this, and it was abundantly clear that my wife would have never owned up to it. If you are aware of any support groups for this, please share. Lastly, I feel lucky to have found out. It was very lucky that I was able to confirm what I had suspected. It makes me wonder how many other close calls I should have pushed harder on. Now I just need an exit strategy. You have 2 choices: 1, keep living a joke and wallow in misery for years, or 2, accept that your marriage is over, see a lawyer, file, and implement the 180 and gray rock method and go on living. Seriously dude, she thinks you're a joke. Wake up and get your life back. Do it now. Have your birth certificate removed and take your son and come home as soon as she is back, and let her manage the house and her son. Talk to a lawyer. You may have signed a paternity affidavit, but an affidavit can be voided for fraud. You need a lawyer to explain your legal rights. Even if you can't get out of being the legal father, you may be able to sue the lover for compensation for the costs of his fraud, parenting expenses. Listen to your lawyer. I'm going to get criticized for this, but you should get divorced and keep one child each. You will never see your non-biological son the same way, and your resentment towards your wife will show in your interaction with him. Go to a judge, have your name removed from his birth certificate, and your wife can claim child support from her lover. Then divorce the vile, horrible creature she married. Unmask her family and friends and try to minimize contact with her as you live your life. This OP, sorry if what I am about to say is harsh, but you are just a free babysitter for her. All this time she definitely knows that child is not yours. Maybe that is the reason she pushed for a second child, so you will have difficulty leaving her. Protect yourself, start separating your finances, and if possible, have a postnup with specific clause regarding infidelity if there is any reason why you can't divorce her right away. One thing I don't understand. Why aren't paternity frauds being filed? It should be one of the highest forms of fraud and be susceptible to higher consequences. I'm sorry to have to say this, but she agreed to the move so that you would move away, while she is still seeing him. You had a lot of influence in the divorce with the paternity fraud and testing. Now she thinks you have become complacent and has traveled again so she can talk to him and potentially see him, while you provide free child care for her son. She goes away on weekends for a job you don't really need the money for, leaving you with a child that is not yours, but you do love, and you are letting her get away with it. You don't need an exit strategy, you need to tell him it's over now or you're going to end it all. Don't tease him, he stays home with his kids and has a job that he goes back to every night. This is ridiculous. What kind of mother is she? I'm so sorry this is happening to you. You don't say it explicitly, but can we assume that she is now with her lover on these extended trips? That she never left the affair? This is important because it may show that they intend to create a family unit in the future. Their marriage is obviously broken, being repaired. Your years of betrayal and deceit cannot go unanswered. Make sure you are legally prepared and expose their lies and secret life to anyone who cares. Protect yourself, but I fear you will have to be prepared for his biological son to become his pawn. Surround yourself with love and never feel guilty. She started this journey in what was supposed to be your happiest times. She is responsible for this, not you. Thank you for your words. She said she broke up with him while we were living in our previous state. I don't think they haven't spoken since then, but she is certainly trying to make me believe they aren't seeing each other when she travels. She FaceTimes from the bedroom to show me that no one is there, but obviously wouldn't call if he were. I'm beyond worried about her lover, however. I've come to realize that she's just going to do what she wants. I think she really thinks she is doing the best for me, but I had to remind her that not sleeping with him doesn't give her any credit. She needs to do more, and it is too little too late. When I panicked and called her, I also found his wife's information and tried to let her know. She was in denial even after I sent pictures, and I'm pretty sure she thinks I'm crazy. I think I caused enough of a commotion that she won't risk losing her husband and multiple children, but I could be very naive.